Hello, this is Koi Me the Horizon. You may have never heard of me from my Tumblr, in which I make a bunch of theories and long posts about Deltarune. And I figured that with Chapter 5 coming soon, in fact, a lot sooner than I expected, I might as well create a video that catalogs some of my thoughts, like a little time capsule before the chapter comes out. This will probably be a very dated video in the next week, but I don't care. I just want to talk about my favorite game and just have some fun with it. So the basic idea for this video is I want to talk about my favorite and least favorite theories across the chapter 3 and 4, and a little bit of the pre-chapter 1 and 2 days, and see which ones have really stood out as my absolute favorites, and some that drive me absolutely crazy. But let's see if any of this either comes true, regardless if it's the good ones or the bad ones. That being said, let's get started. So the first theory is Rousey is Chris's persona. So, I liked Headband Rousey in Chapter 1 and 2. I don't believe it anymore because of Tina and Ram not recognizing Rousey in Chapter 3. There's not really a good explanation for this. Rousey is not an object, I won't lie, but I had a bit of a copium streak once I realized this theory was dead in the ground. So, I'm settling for the next best thing. Why do I like this theory so much? Well, I guess it's the most interesting way that Chris and Rousey's relationship could be handled. Rousey looks like Azrael because Chris doesn't want to be a monster or a dreamer. Chris wants to be like their brother. And we know this because Chris used to wear their headband along with the dreamers. And we see that Chris hates seeing other humans or thinking about their human qualities when you check the human books in the library. And the fridge dialogue where Susie instantly clocks that Chris feels like they don't belong in that household. And I think the cool idea is that Rousey isn't Azrael, but instead, he's a mock-up of the qualities Chris wishes they could have been. Same for the headband theory. Maybe this is why Chris heals so little from Rousey T, at least during Chapter 2, because Chris no longer wears the headband or wishes to be a dreamer for some reason. I'll shamelessly promote my 2 lost lives theory, which goes more into that. And seeing that image of their past wish makes him feel uncomfortable. I imagine just seeing your version of yourself, or at least your imagined version of yourself, would just kind of weird you out. I mean, beyond just Rousey being a stranger that they just met. I also feel like this connects Rousey with the other half of Deltarune. You know, the one that doesn't deal with magic, prophecies, and adventures. And instead, it's the other half, which is the mundane sadness that is in this quiet town where these kids are trying to grow up, but just having a hard time recollecting with their past. There's some problems with this, unfortunately, and one of it is that Rousey identifies with he, him, while Chris is, and I'm sure any sane person would say, is they, them. I have a bit of a copium answer to this, and it's that if Rousey is an idea of Chris wanting to be like their brother, it's because Azrael is confident in their identity, including their gender identity. I'm not saying Chris isn't, because the fact of the matter is that Torio and even their bully refers to them by the correct pronouns. But I think it's just because I want this to be true. I like it a lot. But I won't lie, I can imagine a lot of misgendering wildfires if this gets even more complicated. Which sucks. Yeah, I like this theory a lot. Even if it isn't true, I do hope that we at least get a compelling reason and drama to why Rousey resembles Azrael so much. I'm sure all these parallels aren't there for nothing, and why he has so much like shared dialogue with Flowey and whatever, but Rousey as a whole is just some big ass mystery. Anyway. So the first theory. They/them. I'll give it to this. This has to be one of the funniest titles for a Deltarune theory ever made. Pretty much on the same level of Friend Inside Me, just maybe not visually. To be honest, the name is the only selling point. The they/them theory is the idea that Chris performs the insta-kill swooning slice on Susie and Rousey in the alternate night cutscene instead of the Knight just doing it themselves. Part of the reason for this is because, you know, the Nike symbol-ass cut that looks like it's a swipe coming from Chris's direction, and Rousey looking up, supposedly at Chris afterwards. Yeah, no, I just can't see it. For one, why would Rousey not talk about this in Chapter 4? He reacts with horror and shock when he says, "How could you?" I don't think Rousey would just not address that afterwards. And second, it's anime, man. It's the classic, "I've been holding back 80% of my power, I'm gonna take this seriously now. Epic samurai slash!" And then the crowd all goes, "I can't see a thing, that was so fast." I don't know why I sound like Muscle Man. I'm just going with Occam razors on this one, because frankly, I'm running out of things to say about this theory already. There's just not much substance to it. But it is funny. And Chapter 5 now has a successor to the theory with they/us. So the meme will at least live on. Next one on the list is Shattered Cage Theory. Oh boy. This one is kind of hard to explain without getting into a lot of head canon-y stuff, but I'll try my best. So, Shattered Cage Theory is the theory made by, I don't know if actually he made it, but, well, it was told by Spooky Dude in his video, where the final tragedy at the end of Chapter 4 is specifically the girl will shatter the cage. And I really like this interpretation. It handles two major things I really want from the fallout of Chapter 4. One of which is what could possibly be so horrible that Susie would instantly shatter the glass from the very sight of this glass panel. I don't think this is just a sad event, like something... Well, I shouldn't get ahead of myself, but it should be a choice that the characters would never assume they would make. But because of predestination, they have to, and it's like, why would I do this? It's unbelievable to them, but eventually in the story, you're gonna have to do it, and the conditions leading there is the big mystery. Like, why would Rousey hide this tragedy from us? Why would Susie be so angry that she's in, like, instant denial, like, after a fact? And more importantly, what I value in a theory like this is, what does this prophecy do for the dynamics of the main characters? And this is the real point for me. We know that Susie is going to be a major boss in the end game. We've all seen it, the Megalovania X Susie versus Part 2, epic weird root fights. We all expect it to happen. Like, all of Deltarune builds up to this. Like, Chris and Susie's friendship being built on lies. The line in Chapter 3, "There's nothing that pisses me off more than people who don't tell you the whole deal." And Susie's whole destiny as the girl or the dragon, altering the prophecy with, like, the white pen of hope. And meanwhile, we're playing as this jackass vessel who's keeping the prophecy on course and is absolutely opposed in some way. If this is the tragedy, I think it makes the name fit. Like, it's an actual tragedy, like two newly made friends who aren't just deciding the world's fate, but that they're literally fated to confront this even though they don't want to. It's also why I think the place where it rained and the future of chapter 5 is so interesting, because Chris and Susie, like, if they read a prophecy that basically says they're going to fight each other in the future, then them hanging out and ignoring that is just kind of like weird. Like, there's something wrong about them still staying together. It would also explain why Rousey keeps concerning Chris with like, isn't Susie happy? Like, he says that surprisingly a lot. And even the whole thing about Rousey just wanting Chris and Susie to stay friends and just look away from the prophecy and just enjoy their time together. And like, shit, man, the girl shatters the cage. Like, the line is so good. Like, it couldn't just be Chris being the cage. It could also mean like the literal cage of Deltarune's world. It's kind of like the way Jevil refers to prison. Like, could shattering the cage be Susie banishing the angel from Chris's body? Could the girl be Noelle defeating Chris and shattering just the cage, even just as like a symbol of freedom? Like, there's so many cool possibilities and double meanings about this whole thing. Like, I can go on, and maybe I should make a post about it, but I think I made my point. If there's any theory I want like 100% to be true, like on this list, I would go with this one. Like, this is a damn good theory. On the other hand, we have a tragedy I would not like as much. So here's the thing. This is 100% going to happen. Yeah, we're totally going to have Chris and Susie saying goodbye to Rousey and the Dark Worlds. Because it's like, I mean, it makes sense. Like, the Dark Fountains are like a metaphor for fiction, and it helps people connect and find shared interests. But, you know, you can't stay in fiction forever. It's a very classic trope. I feel like the story will eventually require Chris and Susie to move on and recollect on their adventures, even if it is with Rousey or not. It's not the plausibility of this happening that I don't like. It's more that I think it's a really weak tragedy, like the final tragedy. I don't think Susie would lose her shit and smash the prophecy when seeing this. It would certainly make her sad, but like in chapter 2, Susie was all like, hey, isn't this world better? And they were trying to keep the Dark Fountains open and even accidentally summon a Titan. But the moment Rousey says that opening fountains will end the world, she changes her tune. She's willing to just close it, even if it means her own happiness. So it's not really a conflict that much. Like, yeah, it'll be sad, and I do want to see the scene happen, and it will definitely be interesting. It's just like, as a final tragedy, you know, pushing the characters, I don't know, man. I feel like it could be something better. It could be true. I don't know. Alright. Next one is... okay. Hear me out, alright? So, chess theory is not on here because I still believe it's gonna come true. Don't be ridiculous. It's debunked way past that point now. But I want to say, and why I'm putting this here, is because this theory is fire, and I am tired of pretending it isn't. So what chess theory is, and this was a chapter 1 and 2 era theory, the idea was that every chapter would feature a chess piece as the boss. So after chapter 2, we had a king, a queen, and we had the roaring knight that was running around. And we knew that a church Dark Fountain would exist at some point, so even a bishop would show up, right? And if you looked even further into what the theory was implying, King moved one space at a time. Like when he's fighting Chris and Susie, he's like kind of slowly marching, and he doesn't really move around the map. You just meet him at the end. And Queen moves all over the map instead. She's like interacting with you at every point, going woo, like everywhere. And the knight moves in a non-linear pattern, and that's why we always avoid them. And the second part of the theory, which is my personal favorite part of it, is the existence of pawns that have no say in the larger course of Deltarune's world, except they can pawn promote into a knight. Like, come on, isn't that awesome? Like, it really fits with the whole idea of Deltarune being this trapped world, full of pawns in this larger scheme on a chessboard. In like a pawn, like even Chris becoming a knight once they reach the end of the row. Like, come on, man. And then there's stuff like the word egg in Wingdings being up side, just like a knight's movement. Like, I'm sure that's not intentional, but come on. It's an awesome ass theory. It's not true, but to say it's dumb, I gotta say you're dumb. Instead, I'm just kidding. It's just aesthetically really cool, and it fits into fantasy tropes as well. It deserves to be in the higher caliber of theories, guys, despite having no more evidence. Which is what I would say if it wasn't for Jackenstein's boss battle confirming chess theory. Boom. What is this? Like, can you explain this to me? Like, anyone? If you don't know what this is, during Jackenstein's fight, during one of the puzzles, you have to navigate through a grid that sneakily has symbols of a king, a queen, a sword, a knight, a bishop, and it ends with a flower. Like, it's like chapter 1, then chapter 2, the chapter 3, 4, and then it ends at chapter 5 with the flower. Like, come on. And there's a second path. Like, if you look carefully at the valves that lead to the pathways, it is literally in the same order. Like the king, queen, the knight, the bishop, the flower. And you also get a second path, one that starts with the king, the queen, and you go to a sword, you know, like the sword route, and then it moves to the knight. Like, is Toby fucking with us? Like, I genuinely cannot explain if this is supposed to be evidence or chess theory or just, like, a reference just to throw us out. Like, I don't know. Look, needless to say, this theory is cool, and there's still reason to look into this theory today. It's not bad, as much as people would like to say it is in hindsight. Okay? I'm gonna move on, okay? So this next one... okay. It's gonna be a bad look that I ordered these two together. Okay, look. You're not dumb, you're not stupid or unsound for believing in Rudy Knight. It's popular for a reason. It's great fan fiction. I know some, and like, I'm fighting a crowd here for a reason. It's not because everyone drank stupid juice, okay? But look, it's just total nonsense for me personally. Like, I'm gonna talk purely story reasons, not the plausibility ones, okay? I think Rudy is so much more interesting as a side character, like a healthy, like the one healthy dreamer Holiday, who is unfortunately tied to a bed, and he's like deeply ill, maybe even close to death. Meanwhile, he's watching his family like suffering from grief. Like Noelle is alone and preparing for her father's death, while his wife is like neck deep into this insane conspiracy and magical plot, and just like treating Noelle like total garbage because she's overcorrecting for her lost daughter. I think it helps Carol's character as well if her husband is bedridden, like for real, and she knows that he can vanish at any point, and she's already stuck on someone who's already been lost to her. Like, it's just very messy and very real. But if Rudy is the knight, like, there's no more nuance in that. Like, Rudy Knight would make it so that all of the Holidays are unhealthy and involved. Rudy isn't powerless, he's just another toxic father who lies to his daughter about his health to earn her happiness back, like, through cruelty and violence and manipulation. It's like every action movie, you know, Taken, Last of Us, God of War. Like, none of these things are bad. It's just it's a kind of fantasy that I find a little dated and just kind of annoying. It would kind of suck if the knight was Rudy for that reason. And just, are you seriously telling me that Rudy is faking his weakness? And like that scene when he overexerts himself to see Noelle in the church and play games with her, like all that is just lies. Like, it's like this very real, very grounded scene, and it's all just fake. It's a part of a bamboozle, so the audience can find out that Rudy is actually the knight. And sorry, I don't like it. Frankly, I only believe in one knight candidate, and you're not gonna pry that out of me. I'm very much looking forward to what Toby does with the knight, because I trust what Toby will do with the knight, and honestly, if Rudy is the knight, I'm sure there'll be a good justification for it. I'm just not a fan, and I'm kind of just done with knight theorizing. Except for Papyrus and Chester Knight. Keep those coming, please. Now, the theories I made is, I have two of these on the list, and the first is the smile is a sequence break. This one is kind of hard to explain. So because this one's like an out of universe thing. The smile is an ARG found in the Spamton sweepstakes that's been going on since days before the chapter 3 and 4 release. When you go to a page titled Chapter 4 Thank You, it sends you to this black screen with 3 squares. One that requires an email, one with a response that you put in, and a button that submits the answer. What are you submitting exactly? Well, if you look at the tab, you see the question, when did she smile? And recently, before chapter 5, the question has suddenly changed to where did she smile? This is like a very simple explanation. The Deltarune community has been working on this for some time. If you want to look more into it, go watch GoldPro's video on the smile question. It's very entertaining to follow, and I'm so curious to see how this is gonna go. But in terms of the theory, what I'm concerned about is the she, which is the weird root version of Noelle. The thank you is a reference to the scene in chapter 4 where if Chris shuts their eye during Susie's talk with Gerson, you can spy on Noelle in the darkness, and she shudders the sentence, "Thank you," while a small red dot is like growing inside of her, I think. And a lot of the responses given to the answers, they weren't very subtle about the fact that this is like 100% Noelle on the weird route. And so my theory, what I believe the major event is that Noelle's smile is symbolically the moment when she fully falls under our control, which is a sequence break, like a proof of her own power. Then the line that really convinced me of this was it was the first time she ever smiled in her life. This is the response you get if you type in 4 chapters or 16 years to the when did she smile question. And so, like, I think one of the immediate reactions to this is, like, what do you mean? Noelle is always smiling in her portrait. But, like, if you think about it more, Noelle isn't really happy. She's always smiling to hide the fact that she misses the past and she has, like, no control over her identity or future. She's a doormat who's constantly being used by Carol, Birdley, Queen, and you can tell through her inner monologue that she's growing sick of people seeing her that way, but she's always falling into that trap. But what Noelle does, like, what Noelle can do is this knack for finding glitches and creepypasta material in video games, which is, especially in Toby Fox's universe, like, such a massively important detail. Noelle lives in a video game world that constantly acknowledges that it is a video game with a pre-written structure, and Noelle, through the weird route, is capable of sequence breaking and killing off characters in chapter 2. And, like, Noelle's smile, at least the way this ARG is implying, I don't think it's supposed to be literal. Like, it's a smile where Noelle evolves from the image of being a weak doe, like a deer under headlights. And you can see hints of the sort of joy that Noelle finds in that power in chapter 2. Like, when she is solving the mouse puzzle, she says, like, I can do things I could never do before. Like, all I have to do is listen. And, like, it comes off to me that Noelle is, like, in this trance, like, not because the Thorn Ring literally mind controls her, but it's taking advantage of her insecurities and solves her insecurities in sort of like a gaslighty way. Like, what better to fully have Noelle turn into the villain protagonist of the game, if not for to perform a miracle, like breaking a prophecy, which no one can do. I don't really know what sequence break could be, that's why I'm kind of leaving it vague, but I just think it would be such a cool moment if the weird route kind of, like, concludes into this moment where Noelle can skip, like, massive parts of the game, or even, like, solve the knight's identity, or even, like, get rid of an important character and completely alter the game. Like, in the narrative sense, it's Noelle showing that she's powerful, but in the meta-narrative sense, it's showing that Noelle is more than just a video game character. It's like a huge turning point, because Toby has been hyping this so much, so it has to be, like, something truly important. And in terms of Toby's meta-narrative writing, I can't think of anything better than that. So I'm not saying that Noelle is actually, like, happy because of this. It's more like a gaslighty reason. What we're doing is convincing Noelle to fully stick with this path, and that's why she's smiling. She smiles because it's a false happiness. The first time she smiles in her life is because she, like, gains this power that we've granted her. And I don't know, I can't tell more than that. It's just such an interesting concept. I just can't wait to see what the smile ends up being. So for our next theory, the weird root is the prophecy. Oops, So, here's a theory I just don't really understand the appeal of. Like, the other ones I could kind of understand, like Day/Dem of Chris doing a villainous act, or Rudy and I being that father fantasy that has a lot of like nice fanfiction elements. But this one, I don't know. I think this makes the narrative worse. Like, first of all, why? Why would we, the player, do the weird route just to let the normal prophecy happen? The weird route is more like something the player would only engage as like an alternative narrative out of curiosity to see new things happen, which is exactly the same reason as an Undertale. Like, it doesn't have to be the same thing, but I think that, like, inherently, if you're looking for creepypasta secrets, you're doing so because you want more content, and not just more content, but different content. Why would we want the prophecy to go exactly as is? But even worse, I just don't like the implication that we've already broken the prophecy on the normal route. Like, I remember people saying that the Queen's Chariot cannot be stopped has already been broken because the Queen's Chariot stops at the traffic sign, and in the weird route, the Queen's Chariot doesn't appear at all. I'm gonna admit, I think that's a Toby problem. Maybe that prophecy was just there for funnies, and it ended up kind of contradicting the story. But reason why, like, I don't like this is because Deltarune is a story about characters dealing with the ramifications of living in a fixed universe. If we've already broken it, then, like, what's the story? If the normal route is the one that breaks the prophecy, then that's just so easy. I don't have that, the girl isn't Susie on this list, because, like, I like some of the aesthetics of that theory, but I don't like the implication that, the prophecy has already been broken. It just makes more sense to me that the weird route is the one that breaks it, because it's the morally dubious one. Like, it requires actions that are highly motivated, not just for the sake of letting the story be exactly what it is. And besides, it's already been debunked since chapter 2. Like, if you check the toy beads in the weird route, the toy beads in the hospital, it normally says the beads march grimly forward, like fate is marching forward. But if you check in the weird route, then it shows that a bead has fallen off. Like, come on. And in chapter 4, in the weird route, Rousey's dialogue is like, but what would a new future look like? And how do we know that it wouldn't be something even worse? Like, a new bad ending? I'm sorry, I just don't like it. I'm gonna move on. So the next one is Carol Weeb theory, or known as Place Ja Plan. I didn't watch that video, sorry for that joke. So this theory is pretty simple. So a lot of people are questioning why the Flower King Dark World is full of Japanese imagery, like why are there shrines and whatever? Like, did Asgore find the anime? Is Toby just being silly, or did his metamorphosis into like a full Japanese man full of aesthetic and speech? Is it finally done? Is he finally transformed? Or could it be Carol who opens the fountain? I see this as being possible because we have Carol's katanas, which she doesn't just have one. She has one in her room, one in her kitchen, and supposedly one in her office too, because of that one guy who says, "Hey, you broke my she broke my briefcase." And then she has metal snowflake ninja stars on her wall. Like, we don't know much about Carol, but come on, who does that? That's honestly the only real evidence I have about the theory, but I think more importantly, I think it just kind of goes against Asgore's character if he does something that would harm people, or even, like, want to do anything close to the roaring. He's also a major Undertale character who's already seen his flowers, and just like in chapter 3, we set ourselves to like disappointment with Toriel not really doing anything. Like, she just slept through the whole chapter. Carol, on the other hand, is a Deltarune character, and she's way more important as a main villain. So to have chapter 5 at least somewhat dedicated to her as the main villain, it just seems like a better idea to me. I could see a possibility, like in the beginning, where Asgore is set up as the fountain holder with all the flowers trying to protect him and trying to stop the fountain from being sealed, only for Asgore to not really understand what he's gotten himself into, and then Carol is the actual one who opened the fountain, with Asgore just trying to be a time sink to delay the heroes. That's kind of it, and just the idea of Carol like grappling hooking and parrying the fun gang like Sekiro is just pretty funny. It's not very complicated, but I like this one. Ooh, okay, this next one, Sans Undertale is Sans Deltarune. This one I'm pretty up and down on. I put on top theories, but to be honest, it's not at all. It's more just like small disagreements and like story potential I kind of have with it. So, back in chapter 1, I actually used to be Sans as a Darkner guy. Like, there was just a lot of evidence for it back in the day, and even now, there still is quite a lot, but most of that has been localized to Sans Undertale is Sans Deltarune. I steadily stopped being interested in that. And like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of evidence. The Groby's message just being erased out while being Sans' store, like the sprites being exactly the same, the Dark World doors having the same sprite as the one in Sans' room, and the place where it rained, of course. But I just think it kind of undermines Sans a little bit, because in Undertale, Sans' past is like the core part of what makes Sans so interesting, like what we don't know. The thing that makes him work is that Sans refuses to tell anybody about his past, yet he's so deeply haunted by it, like it's like unhealthy. Like the player, for all of their nosiness and their like omniscience and voyeurism, we can't outsmart Sans and see the rest of his story, because Sans doesn't want to show you any of himself, and that's the same for everyone else, even to his own brother. No one understands what is wrong with him, and he wants it to be like that, and until he speaks up about it, he won't ever heal. And meanwhile, with Sans Deltarune, like, I think something I've been pretty into after chapter 4 is this sort of meta joke, where every time we see him, we keep expecting our favorite little skeleton, his best traits and his jokes, and that one likable scene that just reminds us of the old Sans. But every chapter he shows up, he's just a total asshole. Like, admittedly, he's very funny, but it's like an asshole without any like redeeming purpose to it. I think I just prefer Occam's razor on this one. I think Sans Deltarune is just an asshole. Like, Sans Deltarune didn't hide Toriel away from the night and danced with her in her house for our sakes. And I don't think he's keeping Papyrus under wraps for some major plot. He's just a chud, okay? I think overall, like, we've seen the Undertale characters at their peak. They're just side characters in Deltarune. And if this theory is true, like, if Sans really is the same guy and he escapes from Deltarune to Undertale, I would much prefer if this was like Sans before he became like a wise sage who like annihilates everyone with 1,000 Gasta Blasters in fan games. And you know, I think there's also that one line that just feels like really cruel. It's the one when if you interact with the fridge right after you see Sans and Toriel dance, it's like a ketchup bottle that's like standing in the fridge, like this symbol that Sans has now befriended your mom. I just think he's just Chad, okay? But one last note I want to put on this whole thing. I think something else that feels undermined by Sans, the Sans Undertale Deltarune thing, is that the Place Where It Rains sequence is like so it's so emotional for more reasons than just a oh shit, I remember Undertale and Sans Deltarune. It's not about Sans, it's about the state of mind, like this crisis that Susie and Chris are feeling, like having their world just completely collapse. Like, they realize they're pawns of a larger game. Sans found that out knowing that Undertale is like a time loop that the player can actively change over and over, so he can't go back to his old home, nor can he expect a permanent future in Undertale because the player will inevitably reset the game. And meanwhile, Susie and Chris have seen the tragedy, the full prophecy showing that their futures have basically been decided in advance and they don't have free will. The walk home during The Place Where It Rained, it's like having your first existential crisis and like trying to come to terms with that and realizing you can't really, and you're just pretending to be normal for everyone and for even your sake. And like, it's just such an like amazing moment that I felt so connected to that it honestly kinda sours me that we talk about the scene in context of Sans Undertale Deltarune instead. Like, there's nothing wrong if this theory is true. I just wish that scene was given its extra flowers, you know? Like, theories should elevate the narrative, not just confirm for the sake of it. So I think that's the last of our theories, so we move on to my last liked theory. Player Angel. So this one seems pretty controversial, surprisingly. It's what the name says. It's the idea that the angel in the prophecy is just us. I didn't used to be a Player Angel guy, but I think chapter 3 and 4 changed my mind on that. Like, I gradually imagined that there were so many possibilities if this was the twist of the game. Man, where do I start? Well, first of all, there's the Deltarune symbol, which has an angel hovering over the three heroes, and like, you could just say that that's just the Bible, you know, there's God and there's three heroes below them. But it could also mean like the three heroes that are following the path of a higher being. It's not just the three heroes and a vague god, it's all four Delta Warriors. The monster, the human, the Prince of the Dark, and the angel are the 4 heroes. There's also the unopened heart door in Castletown, which, like, it has angel wings on it. Like, what does that mean? It could totally belong to the player, right? Maybe the reason why we can't open it is because Rousey is like reserving for the day the player can interact with it properly. And like the whole idea of the banishing the angel's heaven, like, could that mean that the angel or us is being banished from the world of Deltarune? And the entire religion being centered around the player, like, I don't know, that's like super creepy. It like makes the, like, there's this one theory called last Thursdayism, where it's like everything in a piece of media or a game exists only once it's turned on. Like, it's like all of Deltarune's world only exists as toys for a person's game. And that just adds to the whole, like, freedom, like, ickiness to the whole narrative. And there's also the fact that in Undertale, there also was a prophecy. It stated that the underground would go empty through the angel's actions. And it's a very sneakily done prophecy, because what it actually is the underground will go empty either through pacifism or violence. And there's no way not to see that as the pacifist ending and the genocide route, which are the paths that the player chooses in that game. Like, both of Toby Fox's big games are about this discomfort, like a strangeness of a player exercising absolute control over discardable beings, that we are more real than these coded characters who are nothing more than just a bunch of lines and illusions. And if the angel is the player, that kind of follows through with that, and it kind of adds so much more meta-narrative presence to the game that we haven't seen so far. The only thing I feel like is complicated by this is the Deltarune prophecy kind of implies that the angel created the prophecy, and I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure I and many of us didn't write his game. But, like, I wouldn't believe a lot of this with such, like, a religiously devoted fervor if it wasn't for another theory that I made. And here it is. Image of Divinity. This is probably my most popular theory. So this addresses 2 questions in chapter 4 that feels unnervingly unanswered. Why are the heroes, like, so creeped out when they see the picture of the angel? And why does the Titan resemble, like, a real human face before it reveals itself? Like, it looks like fucking Shaq. And even back in Undertale, why does Flowey project a person screaming into the TV? Like, I know that's Toby, but, like, what is the significance? Like, what is the significance of this? Had it just been Flowey and the Titan doing this, I could just see it as, like, you know, like an aesthetic thing, you know, show a real picture next to a bunch of sprites, kind of like how the Titan has that really cool animation busting out of the wall, you know, just as a ways to, like, look cool and creep out the player. But the fact that Susie and Rousey say that about the angel mural is so suspicious. So what the theory is that the image of divinity is, like, what godlike beings in Undertale and Deltarune are supposed to be are real photoshopped humans. Like, the image of Toby once Flowey evolves into Omega Flowey, and the Titan being a sort of god that resembles a human before it shifts into a normal sprite. And if the angel is a picture of us, like even the possibility of it being a black mirror reflecting our face onto it, I feel like this and all of these player angel like evidence, it just makes me think that there's something really cool about this idea. Like, whether or not this theory is true or not, I just think it's really cool. And in the end, a lot of theories are just fan fiction, you know, shit that we want to see happen, just for the sake of, you know, either story potential or just things that we like about the game or just seeing more of the characters. So like in the end, like theories they're not that serious. Like I don't really want to predict theories overall. It's more just a fun writing and engagement with fandom stuff. But overall, I just trust Toby with his story because his writing is so good so far that honestly, I think he can like tell me that fucking Birdley and Chris become endgame couple, and I could probably believe it. But yeah, that's the end of my video. Yeah, 3 more tomorrows. Oh boy. I was actually planning to get this video out like way sooner. Oh no, not sooner, more like much later because of procrastination. Because I really thought that Deltarune would come out a lot later, and I would have like at least a couple of months to reflect on some theories. But I just didn't really work on it. In fact, I think this video took like a day to make. Like I just busted my ass trying to get to this point. But you know, there's just a lot of self-confidence issues with making something like this. But you know, it's like what Gerson says. You know, as long as you can read, as long as the words speak to you, it doesn't matter how they're written. So yeah. Happy Deltarune Chapter 5, guys. I cannot wait.